If you ever find yourself driving alone at night and you see a hotel that is not on any map, do not stop the car, because what I am about to tell you actually happened to a man named Arjun. And by the end of this story, you will never trust a glowing sign in the dark again. Arjun was a traveling salesman who spent most of his life on long highways, moving from one city to another, sleeping in cheap motels, and surviving on coffee and silence. One winter night, while driving back from a business trip, his car broke down on a lonely stretch of road with no phone signal, no street lights, and no other vehicles in sight. He tried to fix the engine, but nothing worked, and the cold was getting worse with every passing minute. Just when he was about to give up hope, he noticed a soft yellow light in the distance, flickering between the trees like a lantern swinging in the wind. He walked toward it, and to his surprise, he found a large old hotel standing alone in the middle of nowhere, its windows glowing warmly as if it were expecting him. The building looked strange, almost too perfect, with carved wooden doors, tall pillars, and a signboard that read, "The Golden Rest Hotel," though the paint on the letters looked freshly done, despite the surrounding walls looking decades old. Arjun did not think twice, because after hours in the freezing cold, any shelter felt like a blessing. He pushed open the heavy door and stepped inside, and the warmth hit him instantly, along with the smell of old wood, candle wax, and something faintly sweet that he could not identify. The lobby was dimly lit, decorated with antique furniture, a grand staircase, and a fireplace that crackled softly even though no one seemed to be tending it. Behind the reception desk stood an old man with pale skin, sunken eyes, and a smile that seemed practiced rather than genuine. The old man welcomed him without asking a single question, not even his name, and handed him a key attached to a small brass tag with the number 13 engraved on it. Arjun found this odd, but exhaustion overpowered his hesitation, and he thanked the man and walked up the creaking staircase to his room. The corridor was long, lined with paintings of people he did not recognize, their eyes seeming to follow him as he passed, though he told himself it was just his tired mind playing tricks. Room 13 was at the very end of the hallway, and when he opened the door, he found a surprisingly cozy space with a soft bed, a burning candle on the table, and curtains that swayed gently even though the windows were shut tight. He collapsed onto the bed, relieved to finally rest, and within minutes he fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. Sometime in the middle of the night, he woke up to the sound of soft whispering coming from the walls. Voices too faint to understand, but clear enough to send a chill down his spine. He sat up, heart pounding, and noticed that the candle on the table was still burning at the exact same height as before, never melting, never flickering out. He told himself it was nothing, lay back down, and tried to sleep again. But the whispering continued, growing slightly louder, almost like people arguing in another language just behind the wallpaper. When morning finally came, Arjun woke up feeling more tired than when he had gone to sleep, as if the night had drained something out of him rather than given him rest. He walked downstairs to check out, eager to leave the strange building behind, but the old man at the reception was gone, and in his place stood a young woman with a warm smile who greeted him as if she had known him for years. She asked how his stay was, and when Arjun mentioned the whispering he had heard, she simply smiled wider and said that old buildings often make sounds at night. Nothing to worry about. He paid for his stay with cash, since there seemed to be no card machine anywhere. and stepped outside into the cold morning air, relieved to finally be free of that eerie place. His car, which had refused to start the night before, now started on the very first try, almost as if it had never been broken at all. As he drove away, he glanced into his rearview mirror one last time to see the hotel. But what he saw made his blood run cold, because behind him there was nothing but empty land, trees, and a long stretch of empty road, with no hotel, no building, no lights, nothing at all. He stopped the car immediately and stepped out, looking around in confusion, but there was no trace of the Golden Rest Hotel anywhere, not even broken bricks or an old foundation to suggest a building had ever stood there. Shaken and confused, Arjun continued his journey home, telling himself that maybe he had taken a wrong turn, or maybe exhaustion had confused his memory of the location. But when he reached home and looked at himself in the bathroom mirror, he noticed something that made him scream, because on his neck, right where his pulse beat the strongest, were two faint puncture marks, small, deep, and slowly turning purple. He immediately called his doctor, who examined the wounds and said they looked like nothing serious, just small insect bites, nothing to be alarmed about. But Arjun could not shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong, especially because from that day onward, he began feeling weaker every single day, losing his appetite, losing weight, and losing the will to do even the simplest tasks. He tried researching the Golden Rest Hotel online, searching through old newspaper archives, government records, and property registries. But he found absolutely nothing. No mention of the hotel ever existing on that stretch of road. Not in the past 10 years. Not in the past 50 years. Desperate for answers, he visited a local historian in a nearby town, an elderly man who had lived there his entire life and knew every building, every family, and every secret of the region. When Arjun described the hotel in detail, the historian's face turned pale, and he asked Arjun to sit down before telling him a story that had been passed through generations in that area. According to the historian, over 100 years ago, a wealthy merchant built a grand hotel on that very stretch of road to serve travelers passing through the region, and it thrived for years, welcoming guests from all over the country. However, the merchant was secretly a follower of a dark and forbidden ritual, one that required a human life to be sacrificed every full moon in exchange for eternal youth and endless wealth. Guests would check into the hotel, sleep peacefully in their rooms, and quietly disappear during the night. Their bodies never found, their names quickly forgotten by the few who noticed their absence. Eventually, the local villagers grew suspicious of the increasing disappearances connected to the hotel, and one night, a group of angry villagers stormed the building, dragging the merchant outside and burning the entire hotel to the ground with him still inside it. The villagers believed that by destroying the hotel, they had ended the curse forever. But according to old stories that had been whispered for generations, the merchant's spirit never truly left that stretch of road, and neither did his hunger. It was said that every few years, when a traveler found themselves stranded, alone, and desperate for shelter on that road, the hotel would reappear exactly as it once stood, glowing warmly in the darkness, waiting patiently to welcome its next unsuspecting guest. The merchant, now trapped between life and death, needed fresh life force to sustain his cursed existence. And every guest who stayed the night in room 13 would wake up feeling fine at first, only to slowly weaken over the following weeks until their life was completely drained away. Arjun sat frozen as he heard this, his hands trembling, because everything the historian described matched his own experience exactly. From the old man at reception, to the strange whispering, to the puncture marks on his neck that would not heal. He begged the historian for a way to break the curse, but the old man simply shook his head sadly and said that in all the years the story had been told, no one who stayed the night in that hotel had ever survived beyond a few months, and there had never been any known way to reverse what had already begun. Arjun refused to accept this fate quietly, and over the next few days he searched desperately for any ritual, any priest, any remedy that could save him from the curse slowly consuming his body. He visited temples, spoke to spiritual healers, and even attempted to return to the exact location where he had found the hotel, hoping to confront whatever force controlled it. But no matter how many times he drove down that road, the hotel never appeared again, as if it somehow knew he was searching for it with intention rather than desperation. Weeks turned into months, and Arjun's health continued to decline rapidly, his skin turning pale, his eyes sinking deeper, his body growing weaker with each passing day, mirroring exactly what the historian had warned him about. His friends and family grew worried, taking him to hospital after hospital, but every doctor said the same thing, that they could find no medical explanation for his condition, no virus, no disease, nothing that modern medicine could identify or treat. On the night of the next full moon, exactly 1 month after his encounter with the hotel, Arjun disappeared from his own home without a trace, leaving behind an unlocked door, an untouched dinner on the table, and absolutely no sign of struggle or forced entry. His family searched for him everywhere, filed police reports, and even hired private investigators, but no evidence was ever found, no footprints, no clues, nothing that could explain how a man simply vanished from a locked house in the middle of the night. To this day, his family still keeps his room exactly as he left it, hoping that somehow, someday, he will return home safely. Though deep down they fear, the truth may be something far darker than any of them are willing to accept. And if you ever find yourself driving alone on a long, empty road late at night, and your car suddenly stops working in the middle of nowhere, and up ahead, you see a warm, glowing light coming from an old hotel that shouldn't be there, remember this story. And remember that some doors, no matter how inviting they look, should never be opened, because you may never find your way back out. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more terrifying tales just like this one.